My name is Nico Steves. Podcasts this season will run 15 minutes each in a re-release of my book, The Constant Procession, the history of the Virgin Mary since she passed on. I'd like to thank you for your listening to these weekly Constant Procession podcasts, and also for purchasing plus spreading the word about my book, The Very Fine Light, which is available on Amazon.com. And I will be traveling to complete my next book, and I will be bringing you a few reports from the field about this upcoming book. And so, please keep checking my website, nicosteves.com, as I will be posting blog updates from time to time. By the way, keep me posted on what you're up to in the comments section of my website or via email at nicosteves@gmail.com. And now, enjoy this installment of The Constant Procession, installment 15. Medjugorje is located in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Blessed Virgin Mary told the visionaries that she had an urgent message for mankind to return to God. She said to the seers, "I have come to tell the world that God exists. He is fullness of life. And so to enjoy that fullness and obtain peace, you must return to God." From that day forward, and as I write, the Madonna appears to some of these same seers. She has given thousands of messages to them. During the apparitions, the visionaries do not react to light or sound. They do not react to being touched. They feel they are outside of time and space. All the visionaries declare in substance, "We see the Blessed Virgin as we see all other people. We pray and we speak with her." Our Lady presented herself as a servant messenger from God. The visionaries told of what the Madonna said to them. Peace. Already on the third day, Our Lady stressed peace as the first part of her message. Peace, 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 and only peace. After which she said twice, peace must reign between God and man and between people. Faith, her second message, and she repeated this message many times. Without faith, we cannot arrive at peace. Another frequent message is to purify or cleanse the heart, because a corrupt or deteriorated heart is the basis of bad relations, which in turn brings social disorder, even unjust laws. Without a radical change of heart, without the conversion of the heart, there is no peace. Prayer, to pray every day. She requests everyone to pray without ceasing, just as Christ himself taught. Pray, give him thanks for his gifts to us. Prayer aids us in our ordered relationships with God, without which it is impossible to maintain peace either with God or with our neighbor. Fasting. Already on the 6th day of the apparitions, the Madonna often recommended fasting because it helps faith. That is, the practice of fasting aids and ensures control over oneself. Only the person who can dominate themselves is truly free. These first messages she brought did not convey new teachings, but reinforced the Gospels and teaching of the traditional churches. These messages began to appear around the world, reaching millions of people. Meanwhile, as he is recovering, Pope John Paul asks to see all the Marian apparition documents at his disposal in the Vatican. A little-known fact is that at the moment before the shot, the Pope had started bending down to look at the medallion a little girl in the crowd in front of him had on. He noticed it was a likeness of the Virgin Mary at Fatima. At that moment, he was hit. His surgeon told him, had his body been at a slightly different upright angle, the bullet would have killed him. After these horrific assassination attempts, both Pope John Paul and President Reagan had a greater clarity in the understanding of how precious life really is. As time went on, they gravitated towards one another. President Reagan believed God had spared him in order to fulfill a greater purpose. Although not a Roman Catholic, he began meeting with Pope John Paul II and also Mother Teresa. Together, a president and a pope recognized that the time had come to take action to free the Polish people from the bonds of servitude to the communists. As the Polish native now headed the entire Roman Catholic Church. This inspired the Polish workers, and they began to organize and rebel against the Polish communist government. Strikes began. During the strikes, there would be seen on the walls of several factories portraits of the Virgin Mary and Pope John Paul II. Union worker turned leader Lech Walesa, a practicing Catholic, recognized Pope John Paul's influence, saying, quote, "The Holy Father, through his meetings, demonstrated how numerous we were. He told us not to be afraid." President Reagan's people noticed the Pope's initiative, and they developed a great respect for Pope John Paul's courage. His support encouraged the Polish strikers and their families through the initial stages of this important period of time in Poland. Chapter 27, The Pointy Edge of the Sword. Medjugorje shares many similarities with Guadalupe, La Salat, Lourdes, and Fatima. Each apparition site is somewhat removed. All had humble persons to hear and deliver the messages. After the apparitions, they all became major pilgrimage sites. Medjugorje is located in the former country of Yugoslavia. As of this writing, the country is called Bosnia and Herzegovina. At the time of the first apparitions, the Yugoslavian people's focus had been with hosting duties for the upcoming Winter Olympics in Sarajevo, rather than civil war. The apparitions occurred before, during, and after the Civil War, a war that has been noted for horrific atrocities. Though time has healed many wounds and the areas surrounding Medjugorje have been rebuilt, some places remain in a state of political flux. This region of the world is often stereotyped as backwards and hostile. This is a simplistic prejudice. There are many reasons why this part of the globe is the pointy edge of humanity's sword. For here in the Balkans is where mankind meets face to face. It is a place where different cultures meet and overlap. How the people choose to respond to one another from the earliest of times, from century after century, has found times of peace and times of struggle amongst the people who populate this place in the world. Be they Roman Catholic Christians versus the Eastern Orthodox Christians, versus the Muslims, versus the atheists, versus the Catholics, versus the Muslims, versus the communists, versus the Orthodox, versus the socialists, etc., etc. And the struggles that have occurred over the ages has brewed in some, though not all of the people, deep wells of intolerance towards those of different religions as well as different cultures. From the earliest centuries of the Christian Church, the peoples of this region had controversies about how to worship Christ. Various sects required international religious councils in order to determine the standard methods of worship. And after the split of the Christian Church in 1054 AD into East or the Orthodox Church and the West or Roman Catholic Church, the people began struggling between the Christian East versus the Christian West. The Ottoman Muslims had conquered and controlled vast territories in the region. Flash forward to both World War I and World War II, with fascists and communists taking over some of the areas. In the earlier times, ruling power and religion had been intertwined. The continual power struggles no doubt wearied many of the people. Some people would choose to die for what they believed in. Other people converted with relative ease from one religion to the next, depending on who held power at the time. During the takeover by the Ottomans, people divided their loyalties still further. So pragmatists did, and those of strong belief in their own faiths did not. As time progressed, the spread of communism with its anti-religious doctrines entered the mix. Medjugorje, which means valley between the two mountains, remained a Roman Catholic stronghold. At the turn of the 20th century in 1933, Pope Pius XI had commissioned the Medjugorje community to raise a large cross on the top of the mountain to honor 1900 years of Christian faith to Jesus. Yet since those days, the locals had grown distant from their religious worship. When coupled with the various power struggles for political domination, some people just left the church. There also had been an internal strain that left the area without a bishop. This background suggests why the area has held high tensions over vast periods of time. So there would be no surprise to see the Balkans become the flashpoint for the start of World War I. And this is the region where the Madonna chose to apparate in 1981. By 2010, an estimated 30 million pilgrims had come to Medjugorje since the apparitions began, as the apparitions started occurring every day. Though at first, the town priest had great doubts about the stories from these teens. Before long, he too believed in their experience. As the apparitions kept continuing, things changed for the local people of Medjugorje. Folks started coming to this apparition site. The area's communist government took notice as the pilgrims from all over the world also started coming to this small backwater area. Soon after that, the communist government officials started making trouble. For a time, the teens were not allowed to go up to the mountainside to receive the Madonna. Their priest let them meet in his office inside the church. The apparitions began occurring there, around 6:30 in the evening, and a church service would be held after. An interesting practice evolved. People from all walks of life would come, believers and non-believers. Large gatherings of travelers became a common sight all around the local church. The pilgrims would linger in the courtyard. The church grounds and cemetery behind it became the central spot for people to gather, both before and after making the climb up the mountain to the spot where the first sightings had occurred. Confessions started being heard by additional priests. Next, people would gather inside the church to wait for the evening message, which the teens would experience each day as they encountered the Madonna at this point in time in the priest's private study. 6:30 in the evening in some cultures is viewed as the start of the day. At St. James Church, after an apparition, each day the message would be read to the public in the church. Then an evening mass would begin. Visitors prayed, sang, and many would take communion. The churchyard accommodated the overflow of pilgrims. The villagers began attending these evening services as well. Before long, the worship grew as the townfolks found their place once more at God's table. Attending church every day for Mass became popular. This renewed spirituality from the apparitions in Medjugorje became a major influence on the local people. They also began attending confession more often. These became the first fruits of the Medjugorje apparition. People began to pray to God each day. They became more active in offering confessions. In the community, there spread a feeling that true peace is to be sought out through prayer, fasting, and worship. With this new daily devotion came renewed energy, a synergy of sorts. People wanted to go to church and they came often. The messages have spread because of the Medjugorje apparitions. The reach of inspiration has been carried around the world. As this endless procession of visitors would return to their homes, some would establish spiritual centers of their own, extending the messages of Medjugorje to an increasing number of people around the world. On the world scene, the opportunity for peaceable change would be felt in the air. For his part, Ronald Reagan's team kept up the heat on the Soviets. President Reagan, in a speech in June of 1987 at the Berlin Wall, challenges the Soviets to, quote, tear down this wall, unquote. The Pope valued human rights as the most important effort in the Polish struggle. He emphasized the need for coexistence between Christians and Muslims. He came back to the theme of coexistence. The Polish trade union Solidarity gained influence. This intensified the spread of anti-communist ideals as other movements in the Eastern European bloc weakened more communist governments. In June 1989, elections in Poland found anti-communist candidates winning major victories. This sparked a succession of peaceful anti-communist revolutions in Central and Eastern Europe, known as the Revolutions of 1989. In Europe, in November 1991, the People's Movement tore down the Berlin Wall that had stood for so long between the God-fearing and the godless. Chip by chip, the terror of the USSR-style communism fell apart. This is Nico Steves. I hope you enjoyed this installment. My book, The Very Fine Light, can be found using the title, The Very Fine Light, on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at nicosteves.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves.com. If you like this episode, and for more, share them with friends. This is Nico Steves. Thank you. See you next time.